All right, welcome to the Houston High School Huddle Week 1 edition. They're cutting the lights on this week, and I tell you what, I don't know what it's like for you. I mean, you obviously been in this business. I'm here with Matt Stepp, in case we didn't need to make the introductions. Wizor, Matt Stepp. I mean, you guys know who he is from last year and just from life. If you like high school football, you certainly know who he is. The hat's to the back, so you know who it has to be. So
That's right.
I don't know about you. You've been in this in the state of Texas for years, but the anticipation of week 1, just you get itching for it. I don't know about you. For me, I get itching for it in January. As soon as I get a couple weeks off, I'm like, man, I can't wait for the next season to start. But the week leading up to week 1, talk to me about your anticipation of getting this thing started again, another season of high school football in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I get older, I get more and more fired up about it every year, and I think you're right. That last week or two before the season starts seems to drag. Off seasons are weird. Sometimes they fly by, and especially realignment years. It seems like in a realignment year, it just flies by. Non-realignment years, it kind of drags a little bit. And those, I'd say, once you get back from coaching school, it kind of drags, and you're like ready for it to start, and I love doing all the preview podcasts and doing all the different things leading up to the year. But now I'm like, I want to talk about some real football games. Like, I want to talk about some matchups. I want to see some results rolling in Thursday and Friday and Saturday night and ready to get started. So, yeah, I mean, I'm fired up. I'm excited for another season. I think it's going to be a great year. There's so many. The beautiful thing about Texas high school football is there's always stories everywhere. There's 1,500 teams that play Texas high school football. So there's always a great story here and there, and you get a big metro area like Houston or Dallas, always a ton of stories and a ton of things to talk about.
Yeah, because the first week, yes, there is a little bit of a downside. We're going to deal with an overabundance of false starts and whatnot in week 1, just as we get going. But we also are going to be introduced to new players that we haven't seen on the field that have to step up to replace graduates, and that's the exciting part. It's like, man, I didn't know about John Smith here for whoever, Aldi Nimitz. This guy's going to be something special. Talk about that kind of excitement too, just to answer some of your questions you have going in.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a new crop of stars that emerge every year. I mean, John Hebert at Houston Straight Jesuit last year, I think he did play varsity as a sophomore, but we really hadn't heard a lot about him. And then all of a sudden you start to hear week 7 or week 8, man, this running back in Houston's just putting up all these huge numbers. And I'm like, oh, it's Landon Williams-Callis. No, it's this kid out of Straight Jesuit. And you start hearing about him. So there's always these stars that emerge and these new faces. And that's the beautiful thing about it is, you lose a great group of seniors every year. These seniors go off to college and play football. And you're like, man, who's going to replace those guys? And there's always a new crop. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see which sophomores and heck juniors and maybe even some freshmen that Sean Simon last year at LaPorte, nobody knew about him. He got moved up to varsity week 4, week 5 and burst onto the scene. So there's always a new crop and yeah, excited to see who those new guys that we haven't talked about yet, but we're going to be talking about them, come October and November.
Yeah. And as we did our coaches poll preseason rankings, and as we pop those up. There's other questions here to answer because you've talked about North Shore. You talked about being able to see Caleb Maryland, but we haven't seen him fully take the reins here as a starting quarterback.
Sure.
A lot of these guys are ranked. I mean, North Shore is ranked number 1. A lot, 85% by reputation. They got a lot to change here, to turn over. But it's still a safe bet to say they're the best team in the area for now. Talk about 1 through 7 here as we take a look at some of these guys.
I don't have a huge issue with 1 through 7. I mean, you can nitpick and move some people around. I've been bullish on Ridge Point a lot of the off season. I've started to really come around on Katy a lot. And talk. Thinking they're going to be really good. So yeah, I think you could maybe make some changes. Moving Ridge Point up a couple spots, Katy, but I don't have a problem with those top 6, especially. Dickinson at 7, I'm a little bit. I think that might be a little high. They just haven't. Part of it has been by district matchups. Dickinson gets paired with the Atascocita in the first round of the playoffs, and it's hard for them to get out of the first round. But eventually you gotta win some of those games. And Dickinson always plays close in those games, but they just haven't gotten over the hump. So, Dickinson might be the one in that top 7 that I might take a little bit of an umbrage with. I think they're a good team. I just don't know if they should be that high, at least in the preseason.
And a good thing about these, and as we switch over to numbers 7 through 9, but a good thing about these teams is they give themselves some tough non-district games for us to learn about.
Oh yeah,
right off the bat,
we're gonna see it. Yeah, Dickinson and Katy, right, week 1. So we're gonna find out right away about Dickinson, which is that's the beauty of it too.
Absolutely. We look at 8 through 14 here. Pearland, we're as we talked about, we're in year 3 of BJ Gott. I think we're both expecting a big jump up a little bit here. But what do you think about this? Willis was a top 10 team last year, but they have gone through some graduation as well.
I think Fulsher and Klein-Cain at 13 and 14, just a lot of questions there. Cain because of the youth, graduating heavy. Fulsher, combination of graduation and coaching change. I do think Willis maybe a little high right now at 11. Just, obviously the last 2 years have been great, but a lot more questions about Willis coming into 2025. And then, even Shadow Creek to a lesser extent, great in the regular season last year, but, I think about week 1 and week 11 for Shadow Creek. Week 1, they get destroyed by Summer Creek, and then week 11, they lay an egg in the playoffs against Elkins. So, some questions there. I'd say Fulsher and Cain maybe a little too high for me. There's probably a couple of teams I would put in their place. And Willis again, I think the questions about quarterback, especially, no questions about Jermaine Bishop, but questions at a lot of other positions. So I do like Pearland. I think BJ Gott's ball club is going to be very, very strong this year and has a chance to do some damage this year in a loaded 6A division, Region 3. Shocker.
Maybe they should be in the 7th spot. Maybe they flip out between Dickinson and we'll learn about Fulsher for sure when we start talking about their game with Pearland a little later. When we start talking about that game, that may show some movement in their spot there if they don't show that good or if they show great in that situation. Let's talk about the bottom half here, 15 through 20. Lamar's. That's not supposed to be Pearland at 16. I don't know how they snuck in there. I'll actually tell you who the 16 team is in a second, but they can't be everywhere, can they? I don't know what's going on there. But talk to me about what you see so far in there. 16 is actually supposed to be Cy Ranch, not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be Pearland, but a little Miss Hand with the big fat fingers of mine wrote in Pearland. I couldn't find the letters. But that's supposed to be Cy Ranch.
Pearland twice. That's how good they are. That's how good Pearland is going to be this year. You got them twice.
I can't wait for that Pearland versus Pearland matchup in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
No, that's supposed to be Cy Ranch, who you're actually pretty good on with Cy Ranch. So they may, by what you're talking about, they may be pushed up in the top 15 there.
Yeah, I think Cy Ranch, at least if I was doing a preseason poll, I'd probably have them top 12, top 13, probably in that neighborhood. I don't know about Westfield at 18. Don't feel super great about them right now. Hightower, I'm comfortable there. Lamar, I don't know if I'd have Lamar that high. I think I'd have Lamar maybe towards 20. I think I'd probably have Lamar at 20. I'd probably push Tomball and Cy Falls up a little bit along with Hightower. And then, if I'm looking for a team maybe to put in the rankings that's not ranked right now, might maybe Conroe, maybe somebody, one of those teams out of 13. I could see Klein Collins, depending on how consistent they are, as a team that maybe is not ranked that should be ranked. Maybe even like Cy Springs, Katy Tompkins. So this shows you kind of the depth in the Houston. I mean, heck, Humble Kingwood was a 4th round playoff team, and they're not ranked in the top 20. So
Kingwood and C. King just fell out of the rankings. They were like 21 and 22, both of those guys.
And I've talked to some folks who think Kingwood might be better this year than they were last year. So it might not help them because the top of the district's really good. So I think this goes to show you. I think Houston. I've said it. I think Houston in 6A at least is deeper with good teams than the Dallas area is. Now, the Dallas area's top teams may be better than the top teams in the Houston area. That'll be remain to be seen. But I think there's more quality football teams in Greater Houston than there are in DFW in 6A at the moment right now. Just looking at it from an on paper preseason standpoint.
That's what the non-districts, we learn a little bit about that. And that's what we're going to learn here. And as we start going through some of the games here, we talk about Willis and Aldine Davis. The reason that's on there is because I'm interested at who's going to be behind center and how they're going to get this ball to Bishop. I don't know if you have any intel on that, or if they're still deciding, and if so, see how that thing works out against the squad.
Yeah, I don't know if we even know what Willis is planning on doing. I think they're after the UIL ruling a few weeks ago, where the kid, the Stevenson kid that got transferred in, the Stevenson twins, one was a quarterback, one was a slot receiver, that transferred in from the Woodlands, were ruled ineligible. That really changed the dynamic there for Willis, because at least in 7-on-7 he was the quarterback and Bishop was at receiver, so in corner. So I don't know. There's a young guy they're going to throw out there. I think we're going to find out week one. I think if whatever, I haven't talked to Coach Miller to ask him, who the quarterback's going to be with Stevenson being ruled ineligible. So I think we're all going to find out week one. I think Willis, looking at this game on paper, even though there are a lot of questions with Willis, they're still the favorite. I do like what Kelvin Chatham's done there at Aldine Davis. I think he's got that team improved. They were a playoff team last year, and I think they're going to be better. 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. So I think this game will be a lot closer. I think last year's game, Willis kind of handled Davis pretty easily, but that was a veteran Willis ball club going against a Davis team still trying to figure it out. And so I think we'll see a closer football game this year. I don't think Davis is going to pull the upset, but I do think we will see a much closer game with Willis coming out. But, if you're looking for a guy to keep an eye on at Davis, Nicholas Tramble, the running back, is kind of a player that I think really could have a good season. He had, over 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns last year. And I think he's going to the offense is going to go through him. So, and with Willis, it's going to go through. Jermaine Bishop's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. So just really fascinated to see now, do they put him at quarterback, or do they put him at quarterback for certain series? Do they throw a young guy out there and keep Bishop probably where he's most dangerous is, when he's at wide receiver, and then that also allows him to play some snaps on defense where he's obviously an impact player. Right.
Keeps him from getting beat up. And two-way players gets beat up a lot anyway, but if a two-way player that's playing quarterback, it's going to take some more licks than he needs to.
Yeah. And he's as special as Jermaine Bishop is. I mean, he's not the biggest guy in the world, so
slight of frame.
Just don't want him taking. I'd like to see Willis maybe have some packages for him at quarterback. The problem is when you put him at quarterback, it's gonna be a tell to the defense, right? That when you something's up when Jermaine Bishop's playing quarterback, or if he's at his natural position at receiver, you're on alert because he's on the field, but you're not adjusting just to him. So interesting to see what point.
And then when we learn about that team, we'll learn if there is going to be a change at the top there, because the Woodlands takes on Katy Cinco Ranch. These two games, point differential in a Willis possible win against Davis, and then a Woodlands win over Cinco Ranch. Maybe we can do some sort of weird mathematics there and figure out, okay, Woodlands is on a path to take this district crown. But your thoughts for Woodland home game against Cinco Ranch to get their thing started off with big Jack Dalton back there?
Yeah, I mean, talk about Cinco Ranch first, and I think where Cinco Ranch should feel good is Davis Rupp quarterback. That guy, unique situation where he played as a sophomore due to injury and played really well, and then last year went back to being the backup quarterback, and in today's day and age, he could have transferred out. He probably could have tried to transfer out. Now, whether he'd have been eligible is another story. But he stuck it out, played last year as the backup, now is back for his senior year. So he was really good as a sophomore in 2023. So I know he's going to be really good as a senior. So, there's no concerns there for Cinco Ranch at quarterback. Now, where I think there are concerns is they they have to find, some guys at other positions, that they're, they graduated 53 seniors, a heavy senior class, and that's going to be where I think the concerns are here. Now, what they do have a couple of good receivers. They've got the Chavez kid, Jacob Chavez, who had played a lot as a freshman last year. Had 4 touchdown catches and really played well. And Drew Tureau, who was kind of the leading receiver last year with 9 touchdown catches, he gives some guys for Roop to get the ball to. And then the safety, Scarabino, Daniel Scarabino, 100 tackles plus tackles. He's going to lead the defense. But really, everywhere else, young guys, JV call-ups, fresh faces for Cinco Ranch. So week 1, playing a veteran football team like the Woodlands, probably a really tough matchup. You talk about Jack Dalton, who I think might be he's one of the best quarterbacks in the state of Texas, the TCU commit. He's unbelievable. And then that veteran secondary for the Woodlands. Davis Roop and those receivers, this is going to be a tough matchup because you got Parker Stewart, Kason Bartolozzi back there in the secondary. The Woodlands is going to have guys who can cover. We saw it in state 7-on-7 when they won the state championship. That combination of Dalton and those veteran defensive backs makes the Woodlands a really dangerous team. This whole defense, 8 starters back on defense for the Highlanders. This is a veteran defense. Where the Woodlands has questions is really, I think, primarily the offensive line.
Right.
Can they keep Dalton clean? I think the Woodlands they've got some play. Cody Jordan, the running back, is a solid player. So I think receivers are going to be fine. Quarterback is going to be the offensive line. So looking at that, I think Cinco Ranch has a lot more questions than the Woodlands, especially in this week 1 game. So I like the Woodlands in this one.
Yeah, it does seem like a Woodlands, especially get that home cooking as well with Forest Bank. So, or maybe they're playing at Moorhead. I can't really remember, but it's a home game. I would believe.
I would bet it's at Wood Forest. It seems like in
Conroe.
It seems like Conroe and Caney Creek tend to play most of their games at Moorhead, and then the Woodlands, College Park, Oak Ridge, and Grand Oaks tend to be at Moorhead. Yeah. Where I think maybe Oak Ridge is kind of the floater. Oak Ridge, I think, will play at both stadiums, but it seems like the 2 schools in the Woodlands and College Park, are almost always at Wood Forest.
Yeah, I got you. All right, let's move on to CE King against Spring Westfield. You mentioned your concerns with Westfield King. I talked to Deion Sims over the summer, and they're determined to get that spot back in the postseason. Yeah, but do they have the talent to back up? Anybody can make claims like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like my Commanders to go to the Super Bowl, but I can't. I don't know if I can back it up, but I'd like it to happen.
I thought the Cowboys were making the Super Bowl this year. I thought
you thought wrong, man. You can't make the Super Bowl with just 3 wins. I don't think. But tell me about this game here and your thoughts on that, because there's speed on both sides of the field here. There's athletes. There's always athletes in this game.
Playmakers galore. Yeah, a lot of excitement about CE King. New head coach Corey Laxon coming in. At being promoted. I think he's kind of got that buzz back around CE King that it kind of left after a couple of years. They had a really good year in 2022, I believe, 2022, 2020, 2021, 2022. CE King was kind of seen as that fast rising program. That beautiful stadium got built and things seem to be cooking in the right direction. And the last couple of years, it's been kind of a slow decline it kind of bottomed out last year. I do think there's some buzz around the program. Obviously, Deion Sims and the firepower that he brings back is outstanding. But there's other Braylon Lane, LeJarrette Clark. There are some playmakers here, and this is a team on the offensive side of the ball that's going to be explosive. I think the defense with the secondary, with Enoch Bell and Dwight Wiley coming back, I think that's where they're going to be fast. I think CE King offensive and defensive lines are going to be the big keys and their development, especially when you get to district play. If you're going up against North Shore, Summer Creek, Atascocita, Kingwood, you got to be able to play in the trenches. And if you get dominated in the trenches, you're not going to win those football games. So how those guys develop up front is going to be the key for them. Westfield, I think year 2 under Desmar Black, I expect improvement. They bring back 7 on both. So both these teams have 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. So, on paper, the matchup feels somewhat even from what both teams are bringing back. just seemed like, both teams last year ended in a bit of ended disappointingly, so to speak. So with second year Desmar Black, Emmanuel Yancey on offense, I know Westfield's going to play tough defense. DeMarcus Marks is the typical pass rushing defensive end that Westfield always brings to the table and can get after the quarterback. Davon Smith, Colby Foster, Antonio Underwood. This is a defense that I think is going to be really strong. Offensively, though, the questions remain for Westfield. Who's going to be the quarterback? Who's gonna make plays in key moments for Westfield to move the football, get first downs? When Westfield has gone toe-to-toe with Duncanville, it's when they were good on offense. It's when they had playmakers at quarterback and they had playmakers at the skill positions, running back, those types of things. When they've struggled, or even last year, it was good on defense, offense just couldn't get out of their own way. And I think that's the biggest question mark I have for Westfield. I think C.E. King gets them. I've got some buzz about C.E. King. I'm drinking a little bit of the Kool-Aid, but also I think maybe I've got that loss in the first round of the playoffs in the back of my head that Westfield had last year. So yeah, I'm going to go C.E. King in a bit of an upset here. I think they may be ready to make a little bit of a statement here in week one and knock off Westfield.
And that way they can grab a little confidence, because they're bullish to get that spot back. They want to make that Kingwood playoff spot in an whatever the word is. You know what it is. I don't need to explain every single word I say to you. He's an educated man, but you know what I'm trying to say. All right, move on.
Gotcha.
Move on to Cy-Fair against Klein Cain. This is a battle of new power against old power, but both of them are powers. Both of them are playoff squads. Your thoughts about this game? And Klein Cain, by the way, as we talked about, pretty happy this offseason to see a couple of their guys go in the NFL draft with Matthew Golden going to the Packers and Jadon Blue, unfortunately, having to go to the Cowboys. But talk about this game.
We're looking forward to Jadon Blue rushing for 1,900 yards and leading the Cowboys to an NFC East championship.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know what's going on in Canada these days.
The Cowboys' agenda is real here. Sorry.
All right. Give me your thoughts on this game here in week one.
I think for Cain, inexperience, 42 seniors graduated. They've only got 2 starters back on defense. So, how do they replace those guys defensively? Now, what we do know about Klein Cain, they got a great quarterback. Zach Johnson is back. He set a bunch of school records last year. He's going to put up huge numbers this year, and I think they're going to be able to run the football. Jaron Lewis is back. Rico O'Gwen, the 2 running backs. So I think Klein Cain offensively is going to be solid. They're going to move the football. They're going to do some good things. I think it's really just a lot of questions on defense. Who are those guys going to be to step up and emerge as defensive leaders for the Hurricanes? Now, I think week one, Cy-Fair is not, they haven't really been an offensive juggernaut since the quarterback. I think it was Trey Owens went to Texas.
Yeah.
That was a year that Cy-Fair, I thought, had some explosive offensive playmaking ability. They haven't really had that the last couple of years. It's still been a very good team, but I think you're looking at 2 teams with a lot of questions. Cy-Fair's only got 7 starters back too. So, Cain goes 5 offense, 2 defense. Fair has 4 offense, 3 defense back. So a lot of new faces there for Cy-Fair. I do like Arnell Fontenot, the running back for Cy-Fair. He's a 2-year letterman. Kind of been the backup running back the last 2 years. Been very productive. He finally gets a chance this year to be the man. And when you think about Cy-Fair football, you always know that they're going to have a really good running back. They always find a way to run the football. That they'll all these spread teams, and that you'll still see Cy-Fair get under center, run toss, run lead, run power. They'll get in the I formation a little bit. They'll still have some old school type football that they'll throw your way. So I think Arnell Fontenot is going to have a really good year. I think he's got a good offensive line. Paolo Ariano and Damari Hawkins kind of paving the way. Who's going to be the quarterback for Cy-Fair is a question. going to be a young guy. Now they're young. Their JV was 9-1 last year, so you feel like they're going to be successful. But I think who's going to be the quarterback? And then defensively, Jace Robinson is back. Jaden Vaughn are kind of be the guys that are kind of leading the way. But I think that linebacker core's got to get replaced, and they've got a lot of holes to fill outside of Robinson on the defensive side of the ball. So I think this is a game that really you look at it. Both teams have a lot of questions. So I lean to Klein Kane on this one just because I feel like Kane it's just been a little further ahead, and I think it's mainly because of the quarterback. I think you take Kane in this one. It'll be close. It was close. These two teams on paper not that far apart, but I do like Kane in the opener.
Excellent. Well, the Klein ISD teams are all pretty much have some tough ones. Klein Collins got a tough one coming in. They had to go up to College Station last year. Got them off to a rough start, but they had them coming into town this time. Your thoughts on this one?
Boy, we're starting it again, Wizzy, with Klein Collins and just kind of not knowing what to expect here. Last year, Collins opened the season up and disappointed me, in this matchup against College Station. Now, they were going up against a veteran College Station ball club. And the College Station, I think, went 11-2 last year, and they get him at home this year. So College Station's got to come to Klein this year. This is a much more experienced ball club at Collins. Braden Scoggin, the quarterback's back. Tydrick Finley, the do-it-all athlete, who's also a great return guy. Defensively, I always think about Klein Collins, and I think physical defense, and James Brady, the linebacker, 6'1", 225. Christian Wilkerson, Ellis in the secondary, Ellis Rogers, defensive end. I feel like Collins has the pieces to have a really good defense this year. I felt like that last year too. And most of the season it was like, what is going on at Klein Collins? And they got hot. So I'm hoping at least picking this game, the good vibes for Klein Collins continue into 2025 that they kind of built up last year. You look at College Station and ever since they opened up, one of the most consistent programs in the state of Texas, really at 5A Division I. They're in the Brazos Valley. They're not in the Houston area. They always play a lot of Houston area teams. Very, very consistent. But they've got, they've been 10-plus wins every year since 2020. So they're going to be good. But a lot more questions this year, especially offensively, than last year. Got to replace the quarterback. Got to replace most of their offensive line. They do have a really good receiver, Zach Kosser, a speedster on the outside. Had 14 touchdown catches last year. But I think when you look at College Station, offensive line should be solid, but the skill spots, a lot of questions. Very, very young. Defensively, Cole Flanagan, Davis Gardner lead the way for their defense. They're in a tough district in 5A Division I. They're with A&M Consolidated and Pflugerville Weiss, so a really, really good district. Week 1, the experience of Klein Collins plus being at home. This was a 7-point game last year, so it was a close game last year. I think I'll take Collins to start out the year on the right foot and get a win in this one. Another close football game. I like Collins by about 6.
Get them a home win there to start them off, and we've got to figure this team out before week 11. So give us something.
Wish us luck. Wish us luck.
Yeah, exactly. Give us something. Hey, Micah Rhodes tour. Nobody's gonna be surprised by him now. There's tape out there on him, and he's got to try to bust through a traditionally huge team in the trenches, offensively and defensively, and PNG. Plus, it's on the road. Seems like a tough task, but it is 6A against 5A. So, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, tough road trip for Klein Oak. There's not a ton of places that have home field advantage in the state of Texas, but I think when you're having to travel more than 100 miles, that home field advantage gets ramped up, especially in non-district. And then when it gets ramped up even more, because PNG may be one of those that has an inherent home field advantage, because that place is going to be packed on Friday night. It'll be a full house there for PNG. So Klein Oak's going to have their work cut out for him. We know about Micah Rhodes, and Micah Rhodes is going to get his. He's that special. He's outstanding. But there's some guys. Andre Phillip, I think, is a really underrated player there for Klein Oak. Antonio Dural, Johnny Craven. There's some pieces here for the Panthers to really do some damage, and they can go into PNG and knock off PNG. But they're going to have to play a clean game. They can't have week one, you're always going to have those false starts, but a lot of penalties, that kind of thing. You can't have that. Klein Oaks got to go into P&G and play a clean ball game. P&G's got questions. They graduated pretty heavily. They do have a really good offensive lineman, Aaron Walford, the University of Houston commit, and they have Connor Bailey back, their quarterback, 3-year starter. He led into a state championship as a sophomore. Last year, led him to a regional final. And they've got a really good running back in Tyson Henry. So that piece is going to be good. Defensively, they got hit pretty hard, and I worry. If I was a P&G fan, I would be worried about Klein Oaks' speed. Speed has been, kind of what has hurt P&G in the past. You look at what happened against South Oak Cliff last year. Huntsville nearly beat them last year with a lot of big plays with their speed. Those are the kind of things that Texas High out of Texarkana gave P&G a lot of trouble last year. That the speed is going to be a concern. If this game was in Klein, I would probably be inclined to take Klein Oak, but with it being in Port Neches, I'll go with P&G. I think it'll be a very close football game, and it wouldn't surprise me if Micah Rhodes had a monster game and put the Panthers on his back to get a win. But I'll play safe here and go P&G.
Inclined to take Klein's. Too much of that Klein stuff going on, but you're a wordsmith. There's nothing I can do about that. All right, another. We're going to have a string of Thursday night games here coming up, and this is one of them. Stratford.
I know you love it. You love the Thursday night games. I do love Thursday.
I think we're getting 4 of them there this week, which is good, and they're all quality games too. This is one of them. Stratford against Tomball. Going to find out about both of these teams, but at least Tomball especially has that return quarterback in Jackson Folden. Stratford's going to have a new QB in there, if I'm correct. So talk to me about this matchup.
Tomball is one of those teams that we always seem to underrate every year, and I'm not doing it this year, Dave Handel. I'm talking about you guys this year. Jackson Folden. I really wondered last year if he doesn't get hurt against Willis in the second round of the playoffs, if Tomball doesn't win that football game. Yeah. Like they were right there with Willis at the end. They bring back Jackson Folden's, Hunter Rathke, the quarterback's great. Miles Roy, outstanding wide receiver. And I like this running back. Ian Thomas got moved up as a freshman last year, late in the year, and played well. I think he's going to be the bell cow running back this year for Tomball. Defensively, Braden Schneider is kind of the leader of that group, 121 tackles. And the Mulliner kid, also Henry Mulliner. So they got 2 really dynamic linebackers for Tomball. Those are guys going to be the leaders of that group. Stratford, offensive line is going to be outstanding. Ford Polly, the stud offensive lineman, is back. They got to break in a new quarterback, like he said, but they're going to be able to run the ball. Davis Kendall is a solid player. And Stratford always has 4 or 5 kids who are kind of game breakers on the outside. So they're always going to have some kids with some speed on the outside. The defensive back, Jonathan Joseph, he played defense and special teams last year. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some packages for him on offense as well. He's really dynamic on the kicking. He had 3 kick returns for touchdowns last year for the Spartans. Don't kick it to Jonathan Joseph. If you see him out there, just go away from him. Don't kick the football to him. So what I like about Tomball, though, is just how consistently good they are. And I just feel like this is a team that and maybe now they're starting to get the statewide due. I mean, it's weird that they're just now kind of getting it because they went to a state semifinal in 2020. They went to the semifinals.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've just been consistently good every year. And so I'm not sleeping on them this year. I think they're going to be an outstanding football team. I like Tomball. I'd say double digits. I'd say 10 to 14 points. Tomball gets this win. They're gonna make a little bit of a statement in this game.
Okay, interesting. That's going to show something on 17-6A as well, because that district may not be one of the best going on there. Another Thursday one, Bridgeland taking on Dawson up at FCU. Dawson, as we know, got an extra week to prepare for this game because they thought for sure they're going to go to the playoffs in week 12 there and have that playoff run, but due to some wild point spreads and craziness with
passing Adobe's Hail Marys and Danville getting beat. Yeah.
They had an extra week to prepare for this game.
Yeah.
They were preparing for it.
I'm sure they did not want that extra week.
Exactly.
They ended up getting it. this is a game, two teams with some questions. Dawson lost a good senior class, 37 lettermen graduated. They've only got 8 starters back. I do like Josiah McFarland, Corey Brown. They're guys who I think combined for I believe 15 touchdowns last year. So these two guys are explosive, and they're gonna pose some problems there for Bridgeland's defense, which did graduate pretty heavy. And Bridgeland, I don't think gets enough credit for just the playoff push that they had last year. They really, I saw them in week 3 against Ridge Point, and Ridge Point beat them last year on Saturday night there in Cy-Fair. And I kind of thought I was like, this is a good team, but I just don't know if they're going to be good enough to maybe get 1 or 2 rounds in the playoffs. And all they do is haul off and get to a regional final, beat a really good DFW team in the 3rd round in Waxahachie, and then push Duncanville really to the limit. So you got to give Bridgeland a lot of credit for them getting better as the year went along. Now, looking into 2025, Bridgeland's defense got gutted. They lost 8 starters from that defense. They're going to have to replace, especially in the front 7, pretty much everyone. Now, they got a couple of guys back in the secondary that I like, in Braden Graves and Nicholas Bright, but defensively, they got wiped out. So stopping the run is going to be something I'm going to watch early with the youth of Bridgeland's front 7. Offensively, I think it's going to be a really good team. Skill-wise, they're explosive. Now, they got to replace the 2 big offensive linemen that they lost to Division I schools. But you've got Cass Schwab, who I think as the year went, Duncanville could not stop Cass Schwab last year. He was a problem for Duncanville last year. He's back. His partner in crime, Alex Spence Myers. So 2 really good running backs for Bridgeland. And then Tyler Beagle, the quarterback, he's kind of been a guy who's played the last 2 years behind Jet Lewis. Well, now he's the guy. He's got plenty of experience. Bridgeland was they weren't really operating a 2 quarterback system, but it was like they'd play Lewis for 2 series and they put Beagle in, and then they play Lewis for 2 series and put Beagle in. So Beagle's played plenty in the last 2 seasons. He's got the full offense this year. He's the man, and it'll be interesting to see what he's got going. He's got to replace some receivers. They had some departures this offseason and lost some guys to graduation. So Bridgeland's defense receiving core is going to count on a lot of young guys. But I think at home, I think consistently, and then I think those extra 4 weeks of preparation, extra 4 weeks of playing will have the Bridgeland young guys a little bit more ready to play in week 1 than Dawson. So I'll lean to the known commodity and take Bridgeland to take this one.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that one. The other Thursday game that I was talking about is out in Katy as Cy Ranch takes on Katy Tompkins. I feel like this one could be evenly matched. The deciding factor may be Calvin Thomas over there at linebacker for Cy Ranch. But during the offseason, I learned that you are on that Cy Ranch bandwagon here, not only for district title, but maybe a couple wins in the playoffs too. They'll get a nice start here off the bat against the traditionally very good Tompkins team with Todd McFay.
Yeah, so last year, this was a 1-point game. Tompkins won 21-20. But you look at it and you're like, okay, it was Will Blaylock's first game as head coach at Cy Ranch. And Will Blaylock got hired in late May, early June, after Cy Ranch went through spring football. So this was a Cy Ranch team going through a lot of transition and adjustments last year. Blaylock's been there. They're settled in, and they got a lot of guys back. You mentioned the North Carolina commit, Calvin Thomas, Amari Barnes-Vickerson on defense, Aiden Combs. This is a loaded Cy Ranch defense with Division I talent. They're going to have a couple of DBs. Jacob Lee is kind of the one guy that I like there in the secondary, among others. They're going to have guys who can play. So this Cy Ranch defense has a chance, if they play up to their paper, to be one of the best in the Houston area. Offensively, the young quarterback, Braden Baker, he's got a big, 6'5", 180, big arm. You got Will Blaylock the third, Will Blaylock the second, tight end, Peyton Thomas, the running back. They've got playmakers, offensively. And they got a really good offensive lineman, Armani Edwards, one of the top recruited young offensive linemen in the country. The pieces are in place for Cy Ranch to make a lot of noise. They're a veteran team this year. They've got a lot of guys back there in the system, and the roles are kind of reversed because you look at Tompkins, and they've got the running back Ethan Meadows back. I love the offensive line, Lyman Smith, who Phoenix Smith didn't allow a sack last year. There's pieces at Tompkins too, but questions. Quarterback, who's going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be Vaklavik at quarterback? Is it going to be a different guy? Who's going to be the key receivers there for Tompkins? They have a lot of new faces that they're breaking in. So those are the questions there. Defensively, I like their linebacker Simonton. The secondary with the Jones kid, Riley Jones, and Jenkins. I think Tompkins in the secondary is going to be pretty good. I just feel like Cy Ranch, a little bit more star power and just being a little more settled in what they're doing right now. I'll take Cy Ranch. This is actually, I'm going to be at a game Thursday, a different game. I know we'll talk about that at the end of the show where I'm going to be, but I will have Texan Live pulled up Thursday night watching this football game. This is my Thursday game that I'm watching this week is Cy Ranch and Tompkins, because I really want to see. I've been bullish on Cy Ranch, so I want to see what they look like. I'm taking Cy Ranch by 10. I think they start the season off with a big win.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like Cy Ranch is going to pull that one, despite it being on the road. But like you said, there's not a lot of places that have huge home field advantages, and I don't think. And I think this is at Rhodes. I'm not sure that's a big home field advantage anyway. This is a team that during the offseason you talked a lot about, Cy Lakes. They get a comp right off the bat, and another Cypress ISD team when they play district champs from 17-6A, the Defenders in Cy Falls. Mm-hmm. You think they could show you something in this game, or to tell you whether you're on the right track with Cy Lakes, or will they show you the other way and say, like, maybe I jumped the gun on them?
We'll see. I think this is a really good litmus test for Tyrone Carter's ball club here at Cy Lakes, because they're playing a district champ in Cy Falls, playoff, a team that's been in the playoffs, been there, done that, knows what they're doing in Cy Falls. But this is a Cy Falls team that has some questions. So I do think there is chance for an upset. I think what I want to see from Lakes is just a competitive football game.
Right.
I think a Cy Lakes, obviously if they win this football game, then I'm going to look really smart. I'm going to be like, okay, my hipster pick of taking Cy Lakes to make the playoffs this year looking a little bit good right now. But if they get beat by handily, they got beat last year, I think 24-7 in this football game. If it's kind of that kind of game again, then I think okay, maybe Cy Lakes they still haven't shown it yet. So this is a real good kind of measuring stick game for where Cy Lakes is as a program. But I mean, listen, they got 15 starters back there. JV was strong last year. They were peaking late in the year, so can they keep that upward trajectory going into 2025? Courtney Lewis, the receiver, I like him. Deshaun Butler, the linebacker, very good. Jimmy Alarcon, the quarterback. Alarcon, the quarterback, is returning as well. This is a Cy Lakes team with a lot of pieces that are back. And they've got a lot of confidence. They made state 7-on-7 for the first time last year. And here's the thing. You know who they beat to qualify for state 7-on-7?
Who's that?
They beat Cy Falls.
Okay.
So a little confidence there. So we'll see. It's just 7-on-7, I know.
Right.
But it's just something to think about when you're looking at a program like Lakes who hasn't won anything since. Like, let's be honest, Cy Lakes, since they've opened, they've been bad at football. They have not been a good. So this is a whole program identity thing. And so when you're trying to build an identity and get confidence, it sounds trivial winning a 7-on-7 state qualifier against a good football team, but you're looking for those kind of baby steps and just something to hold on to when you're building the program. They've got that now. So let's see if they can take it to the next step. One thing you know about Cy Falls, it doesn't matter who is playing at Cy Falls. Under Chris Brister, they are going to play good defense. They are going to be physical, and they are going to be really, really fast. And they've got two big-time defensive linemen in Katy McCarty and James Harris. Those two guys can wreck a football game. If Cy Lakes does not block those two guys, they are going to wreck things and be a real problem. That's the matchup. If Lakes can contain those two guys, they got a chance to pull the upset. But if they let those two guys run wild, Falls is going to, Cy Falls will win a 24-14 game on you and be very happy. And I think that's the kind of game that if Lakes gets that offense going, I don't think Falls has the firepower to keep up. So this is going to be kind of a pace game. If it stays in the 20s, I like Falls. If it gets into the 30s, edge goes to Lakes.
Right. All right, next up is the Atascocita at Lamar. It's a game where I would think Atascocita is favored fairly heavily. Can it show you something if Lamar stays close? I was going to say this is they got Katy next week. Atascocita does, but the way Atascocita schedules, there's no games to look past to get to another one. They're playing good teams all the way around, getting ready for their tough district play. Talk about this game as they open up Delmar again, playing over there in Delmar.
Yeah, it's good to see Delmar back in the rotation. Glad after the storms a couple of years ago, I guess in May of 2023, we got Delmar back for night games again, and it's the nicest stadium in Houston ISD. Enjoy going over there to cover games. I think this is kind of one of those games. I don't think Lamar is going to win, but I want to see, can Lamar keep it competitive, keep it close. That's the kind of thing I'm watching for. For Atascocita, I'm watching the offense. I want to see how Isaiah Rashid plays at quarterback, and then moving Carde Mack through.
Ooh, God bless you.
Good thing I hit the mute button.
Exactly.
I can feel that sneeze coming on. That's a good thing I hit the mute. That's a pro right there, Wizzy.
Exactly. You see the way you shut that down, my man.
Isaiah Rashid stepping in at quarterback. So now Carde Mack moves to his natural position of running back. Want to see how the offensive Atascocita clicks, especially with that young offensive line. Atascocita has kind of been off. I've called Dickinson tight end university in Houston. I think Atascocita is offensive line university.
Yeah.
They've always got great offensive linemen. Very, very young on the offensive line this year. A lot of new faces. Can they open up the holes for Carde and Matt consistently? And then how does the Atascocita passing game look with Rashid at quarterback? Those are the kind of things I'm watching for. I'd be stunned if Lamar won this game, but I want to see, how come a competitive Lamar loss, I think we'll still have questions. Well, is it because Lamar is really, really good, or is it because Atascocita is down? Right. And I think we might not be able to answer that question until week 2.
I get you. Hey, this next one would have been our game of the week, except it's on Saturday night, and you don't have time to get that thing on the show. But Dickinson taking on Katy. The coaches think Dickinson's I think this is 7 versus 5. Your thoughts on this game? Do you think Katy? We talked about Katy during the off season, and they're like a quarterback away from being an experienced quarterback away from being probably a state semifinalist maybe.
Potentially, and I think that they could still be. They scrimmaged North Shore last week and heard some good things about both teams, which tells me that they might be the 2 best teams in Region 3 potentially. Katy, we know Katy, Tremaine Hill's they're going to be able to run the football. The defense brings 8 starters back. I think the key for Katy is going to be, for their defense, which does bring a lot of guys back. How do they tackle in space? How well do they handle teams with a lot of speed? Well, here's your test. Dickinson off the bat, a ton of speed. Dickinson, Malachi Gamble at running back, Lorenzo Aguirre is back at quarterback, Caleb Peterson, the receiver. And guess what? Braden Glover at tight end. Tight end university has another one in the pipeline. So Dickinson's going to have the kind of personnel that traditionally in the past gives Katy trouble. And they gave Katy trouble last year. This was a nip and tuck ball game. Katy's offense kind of had to bail this one out late because Dickinson was putting up points in this football game. If Katy can contain Dickinson, slow them down a little bit, I'm going to feel really good about their defense, especially going the rest of the season as they get better. What I'm watching for, obviously, for Katy is the offense. Who's the quarterback? There's been 2 or 3 different guys that kind of names have been floating around on the message boards. Who's going to be the quarterback? We're going to see who the quarterback is for Katy. What we do know is defensively, Jeremiah Smith, Isaiah McMillan, Cooper Knott back. They're going to be really good. They got a great offensive lineman in Lamar Brown. And again, they've got that great running back in Tremaine Hill. So I like Katy in this game at home. This is actually the game I'm going to have on Texan Live on Saturday night, watching while I'm at my Saturday night game, Dickinson and Katy. This should be a great football game. I like Katy. I'm going to say by about 8 or 9 points, but I think Katy, it'll be competitive, but I think Katy will hold Dickinson at arm's length.
And then that would set up the big Katy Atascocita game next week, which will be our game of the week. Talk about another one we'll be at, another great Thursday game, Pearland against Fulshear. We're going to learn about Fulshear now. They got turnover at coaching and on the field, and they're playing a tough Pearland team. I would think you would have Pearland favored in this game, but we can learn about the Chargers in this one as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a little bit about I think Fulshear and just kind of what they're going to look like, what new Fulshear is going to look like. This is not a team that's going to run wide zone and run the football like they did last year most of the year. Stephen Hill's a guy who likes to throw it around a little bit more and be a little more active. That I think I've heard Fulsheur's got a quarterback in that's going to lead their offense. So we'll see kind of how that looks. And then I just want to see kind of what Fulsheur looks like, defensively, because they graduated pretty heavy on that side of the ball too. Their defense, I don't think was anything to really write home about, but they graduated 8 starters. So very, very young on defense. And then offensively, they do have some guys back, but it's a whole brand new system. So lots of questions for Fulsheur going into the year. Pearland, not near as many questions. They bring a lot of guys back. BJ Gott's ball club. I love the defensive end. I love their front seven. Jalen Stewart, DeMarco Jenkins, Joseph Credit. That defensive front seven is going to be nasty and a problem for Pearland. Offensively, I love Jake Westmoreland, the quarterback, Jordan Hernandez at receiver. What I'm interested to see with Pearland, especially with BJ Gott, is are they going to find that feature running back, that running back that they can hang their hat on, that's going to tote the mail game in and game out for the Chargers? That's the big question. You got a couple of guys. Roy Swan is one guy, Ryan Miller. But they're not bigger. They're smaller, kind of more scat backs. I think in that BJ Gott offense, you want to have that big 5'10", 200-pound type running back to kind of tote the mail. So I think Pearland goes over to a Trailer Stadium and gets this win. A lot of experiences, a lot fewer questions for the Oilers going into this Week 1 football game.
I definitely agree with that. Jump down here to 21-6A, where one of our big favorites here to go a little deeper, Ridge Point's taking on Clear Springs over there at Hall Stadium. It's a nice little test for them. It's not like we're not all these Week 1 games. It seems like what the big boys they set themselves up with some tests, and this is a test here.
Yeah, Clear Springs is not a pushover. They've been a consistently good program down there in Galveston County. Always are going to have some playmakers. Sean Carter is kind of the guy this year to keep an eye on, but they've got another really good receiver in Freddie Fincher. So Clear Springs is going to have 2 guys that are going to test that really talented Ridge Point secondary. So this is not a pushover, but for Ridge Point, what I'm looking for is who's the quarterback. Is it Roman Seymour? Is it a different guy? Who takes the reins for this Ridge Point offense and replaces Austin Carlisle to kind of take the reins of this offense, which I think could, that offensive line, they're going to be they're going to be clean, whoever the quarterback is. Avery Morco, Hugh Smith, Jordan Burnett on that offensive line. And they got playmakers outside. Balin George is I think he's committed to New Mexico. Underrated receiver, Robert Haynes. They've got guys, and I know we haven't heard a lot about who Ridge Point's running back is going to be, but they always seem to have a guy.
Yeah.
And so I think Ridge Point will have a young running back that's impressive. This is a Ridge Point team stacked. To me, if you are this is a Clear Springs team that brings just 3 starters back on both sides of the ball, has a ton of question marks at every position except for wide receiver. If you're Ridge Point at home, season opener, the talent and the depth that you have, you come out and make a statement and you win this game going away. If you don't win the game going away, then I'm going to be like, But I also have to go, okay, it's Week 1. Don't overreact too much. But I'm looking quarterback for sure is what I'm looking. I want to see Ridge Point quarterback, and I want to see who have they found their feature running back.
He's looking for style points here, and Clear Springs. It's tough.
Maybe I know my counterpart in Dallas, Diggs, likes to look for style points. It's Week 1. I'll hold off on it, but I'd like to see some measure of domination from Ridge Point in this game.
Yeah, a tough game for Clear Springs to be going into with question marks. You'd like to have exclamation points going into a game like this, not question marks. That's what you got. This is our game of the week. We did it last year as our game of the week and got foiled, but we're giving it another shot. Shadow Creek at home against Summer Creek. Summer Creek, they thought they had question marks at quarterback, but they're bringing in Noah Spinks, who seems to be really embracing the job as starter for a really competitive state title contender. They're taking on the Shadow Creek team. We worry about them in the trenches. We worried about them last year. Are we still worried about that this year?
Yes. Still concerns. Yeah. Chris Stewart, Carter Stewart, Tristan Willis, the the playmakers are there for Shadow Creek at the skill spots. Now, the trenches and quarterback, they're breaking in a new quarterback this year. Who's going to be the quarterback? Chris Stewart had to play quarterback, I think, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And so do they have a guy? I'll say this: in 7-on-7, I saw Shadow Creek a little bit, and I thought quarterback was still a position of question marks for them. Look, just based on what I saw, at least on those kind of at the state tournament. So we'll see with Shadow Creek. We don't have a lot of questions about Summer Creek offensively. Noah Spinks was the missing piece. The one question we had about Summer Creek early in the offseason was who's going to be the quarterback. Well, now we know the quarterback is. They got 4 guys who are going to be dynamic receivers. Larry Brown, Holden Miller, Benny Easter, and Jamaica Jones. They got 4 different receivers who can make you pay. They are going to be – and Braylon Causey there at running back. This is going to be an offense that is as explosive as any in the state of Texas. Defensively, got some questions, but Amontre Harris is kind of the next guy. 10 sacks last year, as a junior. He's back, and then the linebacker Tyson Joyner, had 101 tackles. So those are the 2 guys that are going to be kind of the bell cows for the defense. It has to kind of be rebuilt at the other positions. But I just feel like Summer Creek, they handled Shadow Creek really easily last year. I kind of think they handle them again this year, Ward. I just not real confident in Shadow Creek, at least right now. And they didn't give me a lot of confidence, losing at the end of the season either. So it's like I got to go with Summer Creek here.
They definitely can't give 2 pick sixes in the first 6 minutes of the game like they did last year as well.
Who was that kid for Summer Creek at safety who had like 9 pick sixes last year?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
he had a pick six almost every week.
It was wild. Just jumping them routes. All right, this one we don't have to spend a lot of time on, but it's interesting to see Caleb Maryland out there. We actually got tape on him because he got to play so many games when North Shore took off. You're a big fan of his. I know they're going on the road to SOC, but this is 6A against 5A. South Oak Cliff is a contender for 5A Division II, but they aren't a contender for 6A Division I, which is what they're going up against in this one.
This is my upset special of the week.
Let's hear it, guy.
I'm taking South Oak Cliff.
Oh, my God.
Game. Here's why. Now, I do love Caleb Maryland. The Utah State commit, outstanding. Love that guy. And I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. And I think by the end of the year, North Shore is going to be a really good team. Last year, week 1, South Oak Cliff went down to Houston to play North Shore. And for 3 quarters, the first, third, and fourth quarters, they were right there with North Shore. In the trenches, South Oak Cliff matched up with North Shore. It was not a mismatch by any means in the trenches. Where North Shore had the huge edge was they were just so much more explosive than South Oak Cliff at the skill positions. And those guys broke out in the second quarter. And they blitzed South Oak Cliff for 4 touchdowns in about a 10-minute period in the second quarter, and the game was over. North Shore doesn't have that explosiveness at the skill positions right now. They have youth, they have talent, and they have potential at the skill positions, but we haven't seen it yet. They're going up against a South Oak Cliff team that brings everybody back from last year. They know the kind of speed that North Shore plays with. It's not going to surprise them. They've got Marcel Gibson, the Clemson commit in the secondary, Ricky Giles, the West Virginia commit in the secondary. They got the big defensive tackle, Corday Houston, who I believe is committed to Syracuse. They've got the linebacker, Jamarian Phillips, committed to Baylor. Sorry about that being committed to Syracuse. I know that's Syracuse football doesn't bother you as much as Syracuse basketball.
No, you're right. Well, I got a lot of hate in me. I got to get my therapist.
Can I talk about the Cowboys again?
Oh, brother. We'll end this podcast real quick.
Watching the Jerry Jones, the documentary right now. It's great.
Yeah,
reliving the great '90s Cowboys.
I actually do enjoy that, but just
So the SOC defense at all 3 levels has Division I players. Offensively, I think we know South Oak Cliff's going to run the football. Levon Morton, the running back's back. They got a big offensive line. Stanford commit on the offensive line. They're going to be really, really good up front. Quarterback, we're going to see with the young QB who looked great at 7-on-7, but he hadn't had live bullets flying at him yet. He's going to have live bullets flying at him in North Shore's defense. So the other thing is North Shore came to the DFW area in week 2 or week 3 last year?
Yeah.
And just looked uninterested, and just the road trip looked like it really got to them, and they just
ton of turnovers. Yeah.
They were flat. Could we see that again this week in week 1 against Sauk? I don't know. It's the season opener. It's a lot. If you come out flat in the season opener, it's like, what have you been doing all off season?
Right.
So we'll see. I just think that the stars are aligning here in Dallas for a Sauk upset of North Shore. It'll shock the state, but it won't shock me.
Well, I will report back to you because that's actually my game this Friday. They call that the old twofer. 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm going to go ahead and line them up, hit both of them. So
I'll
let
Kincaid,
you know.
Right? It's at Kincaid Stadium?
Yeah, 7:30 start too.
So for any of you North Shore fans that are coming up to Dallas for that game, you just get on I-45, head north until you get to Interstate 20. Head west on Interstate 20 for about 5 miles, and
you're there.
Kincaid Stadium will be right there on the south side of the I-20 and Polk Street.
You're right there.
It's a nice stadium. It is a nice stadium. It's very, very nice Dallas ISD stadium. So
come down and say what's up to me too if you go.
Yeah, say hi to Wizzy.
He'll be there, struggling, shooting, limping because his knee hurts today. But hey, here's one that I like. And any other week, this would be a game of the week, and probably should this week, to be honest with you, but it's not. Deer Park and LaPorte, that place is going to be wild. New stadium in LaPorte, big time rivalry. I told the guy that is going, Jeff Power, I said, get there at 5. He said, doesn't it start at 7? I said, just get there at 5.
Yeah.
Just get there at 5, sit in your car and watch some of these documentary episodes of Jerry Jones and Gambling Man, because that one's going to be packed.
Hey, Jeff Power can watch his own documentaries.
Exactly.
He can watch his own documentaries. Yeah, this is a big rivalry. One of the more underrated rivalries in the state of Texas. I love how the LaPorte fans will come in their hunting gear, say they're going deer hunting. But then you add in the new stadium, all the excitement in the community to LaPorte. They haven't had a home game in 2 years. I mean, I can't imagine how excited everyone in LaPorte is to just have a game at home again. And then they're that beautiful new facility. Can't wait to see it in a couple of weeks when I go down there to watch LaPorte play. So definitely excited. And they should be excited about their football team. I think this is a team that can get to AT&T Stadium and play for a state championship this year. They're that talented. I mean, yeah, we all know about Sean Simon and all the accolades the sophomore running back has had. But Peyton Smith, their receiver, is really, really outstanding. They got a 3-year starter at quarterback in Aiden Sines. They've got a really good linebacker in Ashton Ruffin. They play that blue-collar, hit-you-in-the-face style of football. I think the big questions for LaPorte, I think, are going to be defensive line, replacing some graduation losses. And then in that wing T offense, they had 3 guys last year who could hurt you. Well, now Simon's the only one back. So who is that other running back that's going to step up and kind of be that to give them that wing T offense the balance it needs to be successful to go along with Sean Simon? That's what I'm watching out for. Deer Park, they graduated a lot, Wizzy. 53 seniors graduated. They got a really good offensive lineman in Manny Bustamante. Brody Bailey, their defense tackle's really good. Braylon Aston Jackson at receiver. So there's some pieces there for Deer Park, but they go into the year with a lot more questions. They had a great year last year. They went 8-3. Here's the thing, though. They had that great year last year, 8-3, and they still barely beat LaPorte in the season opener. And it's a very cliche thing to say when you talk about rivalry games and throw the records out the window. I think you can, but I think Deer Park, I feel like they're walking into a little bit of a hornet's nest here, which is all the momentum that LaPorte has, and this that it's going to be a cathartic type game for them. So I like LaPorte. Maybe by a couple of touchdowns in this football game.
I like them too, especially I'm just going by what you said. 2 years without a home. They're tired of going up to Barbers Hill and all these other places. Finally getting to have their concession people probably feel good. They didn't have to cook up any hot dogs for 2 years. But they got to get them back up on the grill and get them out to the
got to raise that money for the band. We've got to raise the money for the band and the ROTC. And, hey, so if you're at LaPorte, go buy a hot dog at the game.
Exactly. Buy 3 because they're 2 years late. Hey, let's do some quick hitters.
Those famous LaPorte hot dogs, known statewide.
Statewide, the Franks with mustard. Let's do some quick hitters as we close this thing out in 5A and lower. I have Iowa Colony and Stafford on here only because, man, me and you are both high on Iowa Colony. There's a lot to be said about having a duo like Carson White and Jaden Warren having 2 years under their belt and now going into this. It's not Carson's senior year, but it's Jaden's.
No.
I keep forgetting he's still a young buck.
Yeah, we got 2 more years of Carson White.
They could be making a run for a deep playoff run as well. They're going to start off against a powerful lower classification team in Stafford. But tell me what you think about Iowa Colony as a team, and then in this game.
I think it's a team that can win Region 3 and maybe get to AT&T Stadium. I like Iowa Colony big in this football game.
Got to get them big. All right, let's talk about another one that you probably think of big. But Belleville has to kind of toughen up here and then to see what they have, and they're doing that by going up to Waco and taking on a defending champion in 4A Division I.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
Yes. You talk about Salina, defending state champs. You talk about quarterback Bo, Beamer, Benzer, Bentley, the OU commit at quarterback, outstanding. They got the tight end who's committed to Pitt.
Villarreal.
Villarreal is a great player. They got a couple of private school transfers that have come in that are going to be playing. Salina's loaded. Now, the offensive line's got a lot of questions. They graduated all 5 starters. That's the big question mark. I think Belleville is going to be a solid football team. Just think they're in a little over their heads in this one. I think Salina, they won big last year, and I expect another comfortable Salina win this week.
What about this one in 4A? It's a couple of teams that are their district's front runners to win their district title, or at least in the running for it. What your thoughts about Brookshire Royal taking on Houston Yates? I believe that's a Thursday game as well.
Yeah, Yates almost knocked Royal off last year, and Yates is a new coach because Raphael Thomas departed, came up to the Dallas Metroplex. He's now the head coach there at 6A Mesquite High. So this is Jason Lewis's first game, but he's got a veteran ball club back. 17 starters returned for the Yates Lions. Chris Brown at quarterback. I love Joshua Wallace, the wide receiver cornerback. I want to say he started to pick up some Division I interest there at Yates. I want to say I feel like he's a guy that if you're looking for like a sleeper prospect in Houston, Joshua Wallace is a guy to watch out for. This was a close game last year. I think with Yates' experience returning and the game being in, I think this probably would be at Barnett. I think Yates plays a lot of their home games at Barnett Stadium. I'll take Yates in a little bit of an upset. Give me a little HISD love here. Let me take Houston Yates to knock off Brookshire Royal in a big win versus a non-HISD program.
That was sweet. That again, it is going to be played at Barnett, by the way. But yeah, that would be a sweet way to start things out. And let's finish off with Needville and West Columbia. I remember from a couple weeks ago, you're high on West Columbia. This could be a big one against Needville. Yeah,
Needville's a good football team. Mike Giles does a heck of a job there at that program. Always seems to have those guys in the mix. I love Kobe Campbell, Cameron Hall. But West Columbia, Dasi Abdallah, the University of Houston commit, he is a guy who just makes plays on both sides of the ball. And they've got other guys here. Logan Lewis is another kind of guy that probably and a part of it is, he plays in a run-oriented offense, so Logan Lewis is a receiver. But when they go deep, Logan Lewis is a guy who can go and make plays. I like the Roughnecks in this one. I think Abdallah has a big game, and Logan Lewis hits him with at least one big pass play. So give me the Roughnecks by a touchdown.
Excellent. And remind people where you'll be, man. Where will Matt be stepping out?
Thursday night, I'll be in East Texas for Atlanta, not Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta, Texas. The Rabbits.
Falcons coming to town. Oh, no.
The Atlanta Rabbits taking on Texarkana Pleasant Grove, a powerhouse in 4A Division II. So looking forward to that one. And then I will have Friday. I will have a little bit of Houston area interest. This Friday night, I will be in Brenham eating some Bluebell ice cream, watching Brenham host Huntsville.
Okay.
So I'm going to get a good look. Todd Mabus' first game as the head coach there at Huntsville. So excited to see the Hornets and their sophomore quarterback, Zay Adolph, there for Huntsville. So I get one Houston game in this week. And then Saturday night, I'll be in the Alamo City for San Antonio East Central versus San Antonio Harlan.
Excellent. That's good to have you out there, man. 3 games. I know you're looking forward to it. It's going to be a wide. You're sitting in Canada now.
I am.
Friday, you'll be all the way down in South Texas at San Antonio. It's wild how you take over this whole universe, right? You're just taking over the whole United.
I just find ways to end up everywhere. So yeah, I'm looking for. I'll be in Texarkana Thursday, Brenham Friday, and San Antonio Saturday. So
got some miles on that car. Oh yeah, Stepp flies everywhere, right?
No, I'm driving this weekend.
All right, excellent.
It's tough to find flights into Texarkana.
What kind of the people want to know? Yeah, exactly. I wonder where We're the Canada, the Toronto to Texarkana.
Yeah,
flight.
I don't know if I can get a direct flight or not.
Be the only one on that thing too, probably. You have the pick of the litter.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably throw you out. If you skydive, they'll just toss you out somewhere.
Yeah, hey, we're over Texarkana. Go ahead and get out, Stepp.
What's the Spotify mix you're going to have as you're driving all around? Let people know what you're going to be listening to.
I won't listen to this because I've already talked about this. But I'll listen to the listen to the DFW high school. Listen to Digging for Wisdom. Get my DFW, and then I'll listen to Texas Football Today. Dave Campbell's. So I got my high school football podcast going.
You'll have it all in there, man.
I nerd out during football season. Literally my podcast list is high school football podcasts from across the state. Just trying to absorb as much knowledge as I can.
This is why he's our insider, man. This is why we have him out here all the time. This is why we pay him the big bucks. Enough to get 2 scoops of ice cream at Bluebell.
That's right.
No more. Hey, we're not renegotiating.
Now you're not a Dr. Pepper guy, but do you like Bluebell?
Bluebell's good, man. Anything that can put the weight on, I'm always for.
All right. You guys, Bluebell. So apparently, if you visit the Bluebell factory, they have flavors there that you can't get in the store. Really? So yeah.
Okay.
So I'll let you know.
All right. Hey, it's week 1. We're getting data. We're going to figure things out. We'll bring that data back to week 2 and figure out what we learned. Break down the week 2 schedule next week when this thing airs. Stepp, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week.
Appreciate it.